with Unpack Radio. I'm your host, Norris Pope Johnson. I got me the first lady.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm not going to mess up this brother's name. I ain't going to mess it up for you, bro. I ain't going to do it to myself. So how do you pronounce your name?
Helios Armstrong.
See, that's how you do it, baby. And we going to talk about knocking people the hell out, putting them to sleep. Whether or not it's with the hands, the feet, or whether or not you just going to go ahead and put them in that reverse arm lock, or I like to say, the arm grip of death. Now, first and foremost, bro, how did you get into the world of even wanting to fight another human being for your profession? How did you come up? Where you from? Give us a little bit of your background.
Okay, so I started up born in VA, but raised in Maryland. And growing up, I did the little thing, did karate, kung fu. My parents threw me some classes here and there, but I was never like, I want to go out there and knock people out. It wasn't until I got older and I was just watching some TV and I'm like, wow, these guys are pretty good. And I realized they're all local guys. I'm like, oh, these guys are local. And I looked at the thing that yeah, this guy did boxing here and there, this and that. So I'm like, these guys all doing the same things I did, but they're just doing something with it. For me, I was just I just did it for fun. So I moved to Texas and I just fell in love with it. I was like, wow, you never know how fun it is to hit somebody until you hit somebody.
Now, coming up, did you do the karate tournaments or did you do any type of tournaments coming up?
Yeah, mostly the usual karate stuff. The parents throw you in a class just to keep you busy and whatnot. And I was pretty busy. I remember at one point I was doing karate, soccer, doing a little church thing, everything all after school. So I was always an active kid, I was doing something like that, so fighting kind of kept me, still doing the same thing even now, same stuff.
Well, I want to know, with all this fighting, have you ever hurt someone? What I mean, to where you felt oh man, you know what I mean? I would feel so bad hurting someone. I mean, I know you're fighting to win, but it's beating someone is. I would just feel so bad at the end, especially if I hurt them or they broke something.
Yeah, I've definitely done my fair share of hurting people, whether it was sparring or in the fight. I think the worst I could remember off the top of my head in the actual fight I was sparring was I cracked the guy's skull when he was going for a takedown. And at the moment, I had the adrenaline going, we're fighting on TV, I'm my early 20s. I'm like, this is great. Afterwards, I'm talking about it, this and that. And this lady comes up to me and I thought, a bunch of people were coming up to me afterwards, yeah, can I have an autograph? And can I get a picture? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? This and that. Right. So I thought she was one of them. I'm like, hey, how you doing? She's like, hey, great fight. I'm like, thank you. And she's like, yeah, my son, you fought over there. And I'm like, oh, wow, I am so sorry. She's like, no, it's part of the game.
Right.
I'm like, but, he's going to the hospital. He's pretty badly injured,
right.
We both went to the hospital that night, but it was because I kicked him in the elbow and messed up my leg. And then the guy wouldn't go down. So I had to hit him with everything. And yeah, that was probably the worst, the cracked skull and a broken orbital in that fight.
My God. Okay.
Now, everybody out here on the Joe Rogan space and everybody in the world normally say Taekwondo and other skills don't really transcend to the world of fighting. Mm-hmm. Can you explain the differences for the people who never fought anybody in their life to the point literally you're in a cage in your underwear and you're fighting someone to pretty much the death? Can you explain what skills did you learn to get to that point where you can win a belt? Because I seen you with the belt.
Yes, yeah, I got.
I see you with the. So I seen you with a belt. Can you explain to people who never had to fight someone in their life, what skills have you learned along the way to get you to this point?
I would say the most important one is grappling. A lot of people, when they think of fight, they think it's just punching. Most just think of boxing, but they don't realize if you don't know what you're doing on the ground and the guy takes you down, it's almost impossible to get up. You think oh, just push the guy off of you, right. But if you ever felt like a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu guy, you're not getting back up. And the scariest feeling is when you think I know I can fight this and that, and then you go against this black belt. He's 150 pounds, maybe 140 pounds. Mm-hmm. I'm good 200. And I'm wow, I feel like I really can't do anything. He is just throwing me around.
Right.
And I'm yeah, I'm stronger than him. I'm bigger than him. But it'll be 5 minutes we're sparring and he'll make me tap 10 times. I didn't do anything to him. He was never in danger. Me, he almost broke my arm. He choked me out, went for my leg. He like almost broke my neck. And I'm like, wow, like I really can't do anything, you know?
Right.
So I would say the biggest thing I took from it is definitely grappling. It makes you much more aware. So every time I'm like, I don't really go in the street trying to fight people, but it makes you think twice, like, yeah, me and this guy are, are kind of arguing, but it's like, hopefully that guy is some sort of black belt in jiu-jitsu or a black belt in judo or a D1 wrestler, because that will kind of suck right now getting thrown on the concrete,
Right. Well, what is your record?
For me, well, I have a bunch of them. So with MMA, it's 5-4. Boxing, it is 3-1. No, 3-2. 3-2. And I did one kickboxing and one Muay Thai fight.
Okay.
So with the MMA ones, obviously that's why I mostly wanted to do. I don't like to make excuses. I lost my fights. I take them. But when you get in the game for starting out, you think like fight, fight, fight. You don't think like, this guy's been training for 2-3 months. I should train for 2-3 months. I remember sometimes I'll just be sitting down, talking with friends, and the promoter would hit me up. Hey, you want to fight for a belt? I'm like, yeah, sure. I want to fight for a belt. And it's like, okay, this Saturday, but it's Monday. And it's like,
what?
Well, I don't want to say no because then it looks like I'm scared.
Right.
And, it's like they chose me. So this and that. But it's kind of like they know when you get into a beginning, you kind of just always say yes because you always want to fight. You always want to get yourself out there. So, a lot of fights, there was times I did train for them. I did lose. And some others, I took them on a week's notice, 4 days notice. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm not scared of this guy, And it's like I didn't get knocked out, but losing by decision, losing by getting knocked out,
right.
It all felt the same. You just wish you had won. You don't really think like, well, he's in great shape. I was just eating a donut 3 days
right.
ago.
That's what I was gonna say. When those 3 or 4 days, do you have time to get your body right? Because some people have months, like you said, 2-3 months to get yourself together, right? Mm-hmm. But here you got 4 days, and like you said, you just eat the donut.
This is me literally. Oh, I can't even get in shape. I don't even try and get in shape. This is me like I gotta cut like 20 pounds in like 4 or 5 days, and that's all I can do. I'm not even worried about like getting in shape. I'm just like shave it off, make the weight, and go for the fight, and just kind of thug it out, Or this guy, he's been like slowly cutting down. He's been sparring. He's been running miles a day. Training hours a day. Me is just like I'm just gonna train just enough to get the weight off me.
Right. Yeah, that's my next question because I know a lot of people are against the weight cut because you're going from 220 to 185, or some people go from 250 to 185, which is a crazy amount of weight to drop. Some people believe that's super, super dangerous. So can you explain to the people out there who don't know about weight cutting because they never wrestled, they never boxed, what is the process of cutting weight, and how do you feel about cutting that amount of weight in a short amount of span? Because you got to be there, you got to weigh in, you got to be 185 or whatever the weight cut is at that point in that time. Well, now you got to get, some people got to get fully nude just to make the weight.
Yes.
So can you explain to people who don't know about cutting weight, who never had to cut weight, what it's like to cut that amount of weight?
It sucks. I'll say that's the first thing. It sucks. You think like training, it's bad, it kind of sucks. You're like, I'm tired, this and that. Dieting, it sucks because you always want to eat a piece at the end of the day. But cutting that weight is the worst. So basically, there's 2 different ways. There's a few different ways, but the most common way is people do like water loading. So they'll have cut the last week of the fight. They'll have like 2 gallons of water the first day, another 2 gallons the second day, almost nothing to eat, and they're just working out. By the 3rd day, it's 1 gallon. By the 4th day, it's about half a gallon. By that 5th day, a quarter. And by that last day, their body just pretty much pushed everything out. And you lose like about 20, 25 pounds in that span doing that. Is that healthy? No, but it'll get the weight off you. Me personally, I like to just change my diet and start about like 2 months out, and I'll just start eating a little bit healthier, cut down on carbs, sodium and stuff like that, and just kind of make it where my body doesn't retain much. So it makes it a little bit easier. But also, a lot of people don't believe me when I say it, but I'm usually a smaller guy when I fight in my weight class because I'll be taller, but I'm only cutting about 15 pounds. Where, like you said, there'll be guys cutting like 220, almost that on to the fight day. And then by the time it's time to fight, I'll still be about like 175. My opponent's about like almost 200 pounds. So it's like that's where it really comes in, where they're cutting that major weight. And, it's not the healthiest thing, but it also gives them a pretty big advantage when you're fighting a guy that's like, almost 20 pounds heavier than you the day of the fight.
Yeah, like right now I'm on a natural progression. I gotta be 242 for my powerlifting competition.
Mhm.
I weighed myself this morning, 244, 2 pounds away.
There you
You
go.
keep the process going, you keep it nice and smooth, you
Mhm.
saying no to a few chicken sandwiches. You know what I mean? Kind of last month you kind of ease your foot off the alcohol break. You know what I mean? Like lately I've been eating like more greens. I'm trying to do it naturally because I truly believe I've seen people go up there like damn near look like a skeleton
Mhm.
with that weight cut. And I truly believe that that's going to lead to disaster.
I agree.
Now, how do you feel going into a fight after that type of major weight cut? Because I
Yeah.
know you feel like, oh,
Your
damn.
energy level.
Yeah, the energy level was kind of gone at first, but I like to if you're smart, you'll reload on the stuff you need. Me, I'll eat like a lot of carbs. So I'll go back to the carbs. So I have like pasta, PB&J, Pedialyte, get all the stuff that I know my body is really lacking, put it back inside. Cause like you said, when you're waiting, like almost the longest I wait is probably like 4 or 5 hours to get weighed in just to eat. So you're sitting there with your food in your hand, like a starved homeless person, waiting like, please weigh me in with my opponent so I can eat my food. You don't even care about the other guy right now. You'd be sitting right next to him and you're just like, man, I just can't wait to eat. You talk with them like that's the best of friends.
So when you weigh in, that's like the day before the fight, right?
Yeah, day before the fight.
So with your eating like that, waiting to eat your pasta, your Pedialyte, do you get your energy back that quick?
It feels like it's a lot, but because you've been so drained, it's not really like that much energy. It's just better than what you felt before. And then, but usually you rely on the fact that you've been getting into shape those last 2 or 3 months. So by the time you get to that point, your body is used to like working at lower weight. That's like he said before. If you cut too much weight at the last minute and you're not really used to it, your body kind of has to adjust getting all that weight back sometimes. And it feels like you're walking around with cement when you just gained 20 pounds overnight from eating so much food when you weren't used to it before. So that's why for me personally, I like to do the slow cut. And then by the time I get a little bit of food back on me, my body's already used to walking around about like 175 for like the last month, where I was usually walking around like 185, 190.
Okay.
So it's much easier.
He has like some people, like literally, you have to be 175. You're 175 for like maybe 2 minutes.
Okay.
Like literally, you're 175 from the time you hit that scale to the time you get off that scale. And after you get off that scale, you can rehydrate. You can put everything you had back in your body, and you can go back up to 230 for the actual fight.
Okay.
So you fighting somebody like him who's naturally 275, and you like myself go from 244 to his weight. And then if I know what I'm doing, I can get 244 back on me. So I'm laying on top of him. Yes.
Yeah,
people know if you know what you're doing, if you like in the world of wrestling all your life, like from junior high school to pro, you know what the hell you're doing. You can get down there and do it. I can be 244, go down to him easily if I knew what the hell I was doing, and then fight him at 244 and he 275.
But is it because your metabolism has been so fast? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
Like an overweight person can't drop like that.
I'm gonna eat nothing. I'm gonna go in and sit in the sun. Like literally, one
back
dude,
in the sauna.
UFC, they literally had to lock him in the sauna. He was begging to get out the sauna.
That
I forgot who it was. It was like literally.
Hot. I'm sorry.
He was begging. He was pounding on the door.
That would be let me out.
But he had to be in that sauna.
Have to thug it out.
Like literally, they wrap you up in heat. Blankets.
Trash bags.
I don't even want to fight no more. I'm good. I don't even want to fight no more.
That's what you be feeling. You're thinking like, wow, why am I doing this again?
Ain't worth it.
Now that's my follow-up question is explain to the person the mindset it takes to know I got to cut this weight, I have to be in shape, and I have to go face another human being, and I may go to sleep or I may have to put them to sleep. I may die. They may die. Explain the mindset to the person sitting at home right now who's comfortable on their couch. They ain't got to do none of this stuff right now.
Yeah, like you said, it's like, for me personally, when you go in there, that's how I have to think of it. Like, I gotta think like this person's been training to knock me out in front of my parents, in front of my sisters, in front of my friends, and on TV. And I just can't go over there like, hey, we're just gonna fight. You gotta be completely dedicated. You gotta be able to like do more than one sport, because you're not just going over there doing like just boxing, just kickboxing. Me, I got like boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, sambo, judo. You learn all that, and you gotta like make sure you keep up on everything. You can't just do one thing. And you just got to go in there like, this is war. Like, this isn't just sparring, lightly hitting him. You gotta take advantage of all every advantage over there. Like for me, the first time I lost, the mistake I made was I had the guy in an ankle lock and I heard his knee pop. So I'm like, well, his leg is gone. I know that for a fact. I trained Sambo. I know once that thing goes one pop, that's it. But the adrenaline's going. I didn't put that into account. So I let go. And as I let go, I forgot my leg's in bad position. Basically, my foot was touching my face and my knee popped twice. So I'm like, oh, this is not good. We go in the second round. I go back to my coach. I'm like, Coach, I'm not gonna lie to you, this leg is gone. So I I finished the fight. He ends up, getting me in the second round with a rear naked choke. But it's like that was like a very, very good lesson after that. It was like openings.
So when that adrenaline is going and like you said, your knee pop, did you feel that right away? Or is it like like an afterthought?
It's you feel it pop, but it's not like it's not like the pain. The pain definitely came afterwards when it went down. But as you feel it, just for me, it felt like two rubber bands in my leg, and someone just pulled them really hard and pop. And I'm like, that I felt it like a little bit, but I know this is gonna hurt as soon as this fight is over.
Right.
That's what I was really worried about. But I'm like, for now, I know I can kind of thug it out because I've definitely had quite a few injuries where messed my arm up. My arm fell out of place in the fight. My ankle, I crushed that twice in the fight because I always kick people in their elbows. Stuff like that, But the adrenaline, it stops so much of the pain.
Okay.
Now, see, my wife and brother Trump over there, they don't understand the mindset of a complete crazy person. You have to, for those who sit comfortable at home, you have to mentally embrace yourself for the pain. Mm-hmm. You have to tell yourself that this is going to be my friend while I'm in this fight, because you have to push yourself past that pain to win this fight. So can you explain to the person at home, like I said, they sitting at home comfortable, bro, they ain't never been punched in the face. They think they can take it until somebody punch them in the face. So can you explain to people at home, how did it feel to take a punch to the face and like, I'm going to punch you the hell back and I'm not going to stop until I destroy you. You got to let them know your mission is I'm going to destroy you no matter what it takes. This is my life. You're trying to take my livelihood from me. You're trying to take my food off my kids' mouth. You're trying to destroy me. I want to destroy you first. So explain to the person. All that.
Yeah, I can tell. It's coming out. Yeah, all that's coming out.
You're sure you have a fight this weekend?
He had a flashback.
To be honest, bro, I used to wrestle, but in your world, I wouldn't survive. In your mindset, we all love to believe we survive until you realize there's people out there that know stuff that you do not know. Mm-hmm. And I've been taught some nice pressure points for my job set, but it's people out there that know stuff on a level that I could never imagine.
Yeah.
Like there's people like one of my trainers, he does MMA, and he literally took me and tossed me like a rag doll. And I know I was every bit of 240. And he tossed me like I was his play toy. Mm-hmm. And I was in his classroom. So it's like you realize there's certain people can take you and do you like a rag doll. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's something you gotta get used to. Like you said, it's like you gotta accept that you can't beat everybody. I mean, you have to go into thinking you can beat everybody, but obviously your coaches are gonna remind you every day that's not gonna happen.
Right.
And then 2, you're just gonna have to get used to it. Like it'd be nice if we could all be like Mayweather and Tyson. It's easy to watch them, from the couch and be like, these guys are great, but not everybody fights like them. Like you can go in the fight and think, hey, this guy isn't that good. He's probably not gonna hit me. And he has the most awkward style you never dealt with. And you're like, he is hitting me, but I don't know what to do against it. And it kind of hurts. Like my first fight, I remember I was sparring. I didn't get like hurt at all when I was sparring. I was doing good, felt really confident. All of a sudden, I'm standing in front of the guy. I got lazy, clips me in the chin. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually hurt, like noodle legs and everything. And it's like, you have 2 options at that point. Curl up, take that L, or fight back, survive that round, and come back and make him pay for that.
Right.
You just got to figure it out. But it's something like in a split second, because once he finds out you're hurt, he's going to try and take your head off. He's not going to feel bad for you saying, hey, you okay, this and that.
Right.
Nope, he's like, I got to take you out and get that W.
Wow.
So you definitely got to welcome that in, except you're going to get hit. And it's really not that bad once you take that first hit, I would say.
And I know you've trained for this, but Have you ever got in the ring and just lost your cool? Just snapped? Because, when I watch some of these fights, it's, you can tell like it's almost war sometimes against each fighter. So have you ever had a fight like that where you just snap, like they hit you too, well, not hit you too hard because that's what they're supposed to do, but just like, they were really coming for you personally. So have you ever just got in the ring and just lost your cool?
I would say never really lost my cool, but I definitely had my the one where I let the guys let go. I was super nervous for that fight. I'm like, I know like people like Hispanics and Latinos, they're notoriously known for having endurance and hard to knock out.
Right.
And I'm like, I know I hit hard, but like I have to prepare myself to go all rounds. So I knew what the game plan was, but as soon as I came out there, I was like, hit him, just hit him. Went straight at him, just throwing everything. And I clipped him and I hit him. He went flying. And I'm like, oh, I actually hurt him. This is great. I can actually hurt him. But then he like smiled at me and I'm like while he's on the ground.
Right.
And it kind of threw me off a bit.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he smiling? Like, I know he was hurt. I wasn't expecting. Most people, when you hit them hard, even when they smile, you can kind of tell they just kind of cover it. But he was like, I took your best shot. Even though he's on the ground. So, it's like that at that point I should have kept calm, but
it threw you off.
It throws you off,
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Like most people explain the world of fighting or grappling as a mental chess match. You have to mentally prepare yourself and mentally do things. Like you have to mentally prepare yourself. And even while you're in the ring, you have to play a game of chess. It's all about how you move, how you guard yourself, how you grapple, what they do to you, what you do in response. So can you explain the mindset of the mental chess match that goes on in the ring?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's a chess match. You got to be like 2-3 steps ahead. It's not like I just want to submit you. You got to make that person do essentially what you want to submit them. Because if you just try and force a submission on them, they're going to get it. I don't care how crappy they are. They're going to know, and they're just going to curl up in the ball, and they're going to be like, I can't get this guy. But if you force this guy you push this guy one way, he pushes the other way, you go over, bam, you make him open for it. And then the second thing is you got to get used to like grappling with people. Like I remember at first I was like, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to knock everybody out. I don't even need a grapple. I get beat up on the ground by some white belts when I first started.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I think I need to learn this grappling. You gotta get used to being sweaty with other people. It's just like it's part of the game. You wrestle, so you understand. It's not just you gotta get past that barrier,
I know my wife normally it's my wife question, but before my wife make her statement, I'm gonna say in the world of wrestling, because I know she doesn't like to sweat and everything, but the world of wrestling, if you do NCAA style wrestling, though, this is how you start off NCAA style wrestling, man. I'm not gonna look at him. Look at you, Sweet Pea. You're on the ground. The person is on all fours. You're on their buttocks area. Like your waist is on their buttocks area, and your hand is literally at their upper waist. That's how you start off. I'm not looking at him. He's going to confirm. Right. This is how you start off in the world of NCAA wrestling. Your arm is wrapped like as close to like a little lower than their belly button.
Right.
And their job, once you start off in that position, is to get out of your guard. If they can't get out your guard, you win the point. If they get out your guard, then they get to put you in their guard. Am I telling the truth?
Yep, that's exactly how it goes.
That's exactly how the world.
You have to get past that barrier.
You had to get past that, and it's like I used to wrestle at like 185, and I was immaculately strong. So it's like they used to put me up against like the big burly, like 200-pound guys.
The guys like 200 pounds.
But I still will ragdoll them. So it's like amazing what you can do, but it's like scary because you're vulnerable. You're on the ground, and some dude literally is like on your buttocks.
That's why I need
with his hand wrapped around your waist. It's the most vulnerable thing you can do in NCAA style wrestling. But it prepares you because like literally somebody jump on you and they get you on the ground. You'll be okay.
But
that is true.
That's true, but that's why you get like a no contact sport like track so you can run. I'm just saying. That prepare you, but track prepare you too. I'm just saying.
You have a point.
I can run, right? I ain't gotta wrestle. I'm sorry.
That's where stop danger, avoid it.
There you go.
Now to be honest with you, Jocko, Jocko Willings and Joe Rogan and a lot of other people say, if you have the opportunity and you're in a fight, run the hell away. So that's a good point.
Yeah, try.
But if you can't run away,
maybe sometimes you're stuck in that corner unless you're going up walls.
you got to do what you got to do. Now, my next question is, bro, I got to ask you, how does it feel to put somebody the fuck to sleep? How does it feel?
Wow.
How does it feel, bro?
I'll say it's always a surprise. You think like you're gonna go in there and you know which one is gonna do it, and then it happens, and you instead of being like, yeah, I did it, you're like, oh, I did it. You know, like I didn't think that was just about to happen. You're so into the fight, you didn't even realize what's happening. Sometimes I like kick guys in the liver. I'm like, okay, I got him. All of a sudden, he just drops. I'm like, that's it. It's like almost so easy. Like someone just gave you a hack. It's a great feeling, but it's just never how you really expect it, you know, unless you own like you're like a one-trick pony, like a lot of people are. They can land that right hand. But if you're a little bit, you know, more experienced and you just don't rely on that one thing, it's always like a surprise. It's a good surprise, but it's like, oh, I did it, you know, like you just pressed a button randomly and hit the guy and you're like, oh, I didn't even expect to do that.
Wow.
But it's definitely always a great feeling.
Okay, I'm a mother, so I have to ask this. How does your mother deal with this? Because it would be hard watching my child in the ring and someone hits him. Because first I'm thinking, no, don't hit him in the mouth, his teeth.
Yeah.
So how does your mom handle that?
Well, first, like you said about the teeth, I told my mom, I got my mouth guarded all the time.
Okay.
I make sure you got to have that in.
Oh, yes.
Ain't nobody trying to lose no teeth for these fights.
Yeah, that's number one on my dating list.
And then second, yeah, I just tell her, like, you know, like I've never been knocked out, thankfully. So at least she can rely on that.
Okay.
You know, that kind of helps her feel a little bit better about it. But at the same time, it's like, it's part of the game, and she knows, so she'll still be worried, but she'll still come to the fights and watch.
Oh God, I'll be like this the whole time.
Literally just like that. And but she also has my sisters who sometimes, you know, take some drinks and get pretty lit and be like, yeah, you got this, and try and help her get in a better mood about it, you know.
Right.
The drinks definitely help them light it up a little bit about the fight. You know, your son's fighting over there against this guy that's like 30 pounds heavier than him. And she's like, oh yeah, I feel good now, you know.
Yeah.
And plus the confidence goes up after. She's like, if I was only losing, then she would be like, yeah, you probably should stop and you're getting hurt. But when you saw I had like success of it, and most of the time when I lost, it was like, you know, I said earlier, sure, notice fights, me being, you know, young and dumb. She was like, well, at least even when you lose those fights, it's by decision. You know, you finished the rounds, guy didn't knock you out, and you know, you survived. I don't even look like messed up because I did the best, at least not to get knocked out and hit.
Right,
you
exactly.
Know? So at least she feels better knowing if he does lose, he loses the boring decision way versus getting slept.
But at least his face intact. Right?
At least his face intact.
Now, bro, how did it feel? At first, I don't know what belt you won. I see your Facebook picture. You got the big old belt there on. What belt did you win, and how did it feel to win that belt?
So my first belt I won was in Delaware. I was fighting for the welterweight belt over there. Fought the tallest guy I ever fought, 6'4", and he was a tall dude. But I fought smart that time. I knew what to do. Get in his face and hit him. That was the game plan. I couldn't stay too far because I knew he had the reach advantage. Or I think I actually had the reach advantage because I have very long arms. But I knew his kick and stuff would get in the way. So I just went over to him, kicked him in the face. I knew that's what I had to do. And I ended up submitting him in the end of the third round. And my second belt was I moved up a weight class, and they wanted me to fight this other guy that was supposed to be I was supposed to actually lose that fight. I was the underdog. I was supposed to be his last fight before he goes pro. And you know, he was 185. He was supposed to be fighting 185 belt. I'm a welterweight, so I had to move up. Even that fight, I was super small. I weighed like 180. He was about 220. So there was definitely a big weight difference the day to fight. But that's the one where I hit that guy with everything, kitchen sink and all, and he would not go down. And I ended up winning the belt off of that fight. We both went to the hospital though that night.
Oh wow!
One for my leg and him for everything I hit him with. But yeah, that was my second belt. And then yeah, I think those are the two belts I got: 170, 185 for Delaware and Virginia. So those are definitely some of the best times of my life because it's like, hey, I'm fighting for a belt, but it's like, you know, I'm fighting for the belt, you know?
Yeah.
It just kind of hits you once you get in there, you know? And I think the second time, that one was televised. The first one was kind of like a little smaller scale. So it was nice to do it again, but like on a bigger scale now, you know, like the news crew out there, they give us our personal interviews, you know, like how they do. What do you think about your opponent, this and that? I'm a nice guy. So I was like, yeah, I think he's good, but I'm gonna win.
Right.
So nice. It was a nice experience.
Right. Now I'm gonna get off topic a little bit. You're not married or in a committed relationship.
No, not right now.
So how do you handle the ladies coming at you? Because the ladies love athletes. How do you handle it?
They definitely do appreciate, guy that can protect them as they like to, remind you, they're like, yeah, I love you because you're a fighter, you can protect me.
Right. Somebody meet us in the alley, you ain't running and I'm stuck again.
Yes, and they definitely like the abuse. I've definitely been out every now and then, we'll be out and the girl gets a little bit too drunk and she's like, you got my back, right? Or, I'll this and that. My sisters, though, I would say they're definitely the ones that abuse it the most, where they like to be like, well, my brother will do this and that.
Oh, wow.
And I've had so many times that you call me like, hey, what are you doing this and that? I'm like, what? Wait, who started this little altercation right now? Well, I said something to him first, but I'm like, come on now, you just can't use me as your support character every time you need it. But yeah, it's definitely it takes getting used to. You gotta kind of, not just say yeah to every girl coming your way. Obviously, some of them trying to have their own little, plans or whatever, but it's definitely nice. You definitely love the attention, especially after a fight where you're like, hey, I won. At first, when I won my fights and I didn't really have any attention, it was just like, I won. After a while, it's like, can I get an autograph? Can I get this and that?
Wow.
I'm like, oh, really? And then after a while, I'm walking down the street. They're like, hey, I saw you fight before. Can I get a picture with you?
Right.
I'm like, this is kind of cool,
But to be honest, I live my life in fear a lot because of my mask, because who I am. And I realize that you're a lot stronger, you're a lot powerful than most people on this earth, and you got to be cautious because of who you are. So I live my life in fear a lot because I know who I am. Do you also have that same fear? You're an athlete. You've been trained to destroy people. So do you live your life in that same fear of, I know who I am, so I have to hold back a lot?
Absolutely. When I first started fighting and I moved over here back to Maryland, I was probably 30 pounds bigger than even the biggest guy at one point. So it was like I could barely do anything. I'm like, I know I'm knocking out guys a weight class above me. And when I did the Golden Gloves, I went all the way up to 205 and I was still 185 and I was still knocking those guys out. So you can imagine now I got to spar with guys like 150, 160. I'm like, I really don't even want to take a chance. And most of them are my friends, And then even like the one time I got in a street fight afterwards, like I kind of forgot, and this isn't like me bragging, but I kind of forgot the difference between someone that doesn't fight and someone that does fight. And I kind of lost my temper and I hit the guy, but it's like, I'm thinking it's going to be like, when you go in the boxing gym, we're going to spar 5 rounds. I hit the guy once and he's out and I'm like, damn, now I feel really bad. Like I wasn't trying to, show off to the guy, whatever, because he was kind of like, a little this and that. But it's like, I still know, like, okay, I didn't have to hit him that hard. I mean, it was a jab, so it was only that's all I can hit him. But still, it's like, yeah, I could have probably pushed the guy and just kind of walked off. He probably wouldn't even chase me, So it's like you do have to remember, like, once you're out the gym, you just can't go around hitting people. And you got to remember, like you said, you're a lot stronger than you realize you are. Even when I'm like playing around with friends, they're like, yo, chill out. And I'm like, my bad. I'm used to grappling with guys.
Right.
They're like 300 pounds,
Are your hands registered?
Yeah, they are registered.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's even more of a caution because
I know. Gotta be so careful because some people try to push your button on purpose.
Exactly, like the last guy I was talking about. Like I gave him like 5 chances to let the situation die. I'm like, yo, can you just move out the road, this and that? But some people, they just think because you're nice, they can just kind of,
felt like being roadkill that day. That's all.
Pretty much.
Being honest, I noticed in the real world of when you understand how violence work, most people understand how violence work. They're very polite. They're very welcoming. Like my wife can tell you, I see people in the grocery store and back in the good days, I used to shake the veterans' hands because I understood they understood violence. I understand what the human body can do to someone. So I'm trying to be utterly nice. And sometimes in certain situations, I try to stay utterly calm.
Exactly.
Because at any point it can go down. And when it does go down, somebody can get hurt to the point that they may not walk away from this.
Exactly. And it's not worth it.
I think people don't understand that when they're walking around in this world, that violence doesn't stop. Now, I mean, you see it on TV, you think somebody going to ring a bell and that's going to be it. But in the real world, there's no one out there to ring this bell. In the real world, there's no one out there to pull me off you when it gets too far. So that's why I know for a fact, that's why you probably try to stay as calm as possible because you understand I can hurt you. So can you explain to people why you try to stay that way? Because I know why I do it, because I know.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, people don't understand. Like, it's very easy to, like, you know, get in a scuffle with somebody, hit them the wrong way, person's dead. You hit the person, their head hit something, person's dead. Like, even like you're not paying attention, you guys are arguing, somebody takes a step back too far, you didn't realize how close you are to the street. You know, people don't realize, like, you think like you're just getting into a fight, but it can end up being something so much worse just because you were just thinking like, oh, you know, he was just annoying this and that. It's like you said, even when I did security, that's another thing that taught me a lot of patience, because when you first, you know, do security in the beginning of the day, everybody's sober. They're all cool. People get drunk later on, and that's when people start getting
liquid courage.
Yes, exactly. So it's like you just kind of got to sit there and they'll say some stuff, and it's like, I could fight this guy, but he's a drunk guy. What do I gain from it? So you let him kind of mouth off. You tell him to go away, this and that. You got to get used to like having patience like that. And that helps in the real world too, because you have people like most of the time, most people don't really do anything to me. I just kind of walk. I mind my business, mind their business. Every now and then there's that one guy that's like, you know, saying something a little slick. And it's like, is it really worth fighting somebody over something they said? I'm not even going to remember like 2 days from now. No, you know?
That's true.
So, you know, it's like you said, people don't realize that it really is easy, even if you're not a trained fighter. It's the wrong way, and all of a sudden now you're in the court and you're like, it was just a little scuffle. I didn't mean to do it. But you can't take it back even if you didn't mean to do it, you know? Absolutely. It's as simple as that. Especially if you're a bigger guy and you hit somebody, they're gonna look at you different. They're not gonna think, well, he's a bigger guy. He didn't hit that hard.
They don't care you're a teddy bear and you've never been in trouble before.
Nope. All it takes is that one time, and it's like all I had to do was turn away. You know, nobody wants to live with something like that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Now I got a question for you. So it's a two-part question. One, how much longer can you see yourself doing this? Because I know some things that I do just personal, always give myself a start date and an end date. Then once this ends for you successfully, because we claiming that, what's next for you?
So the first question, like you said, it's funny, when I first started, I didn't really think of an end date. I just thought, you know, I'm 20, I'm never gonna get old, I'm gonna do this forever. After about like, you know, 26, I starting to feel it. And now, you know, now it's like, okay, I can understand what they meant back then. You know, you gotta get in what you can until, you know, the time comes. So for me personally, I would say like, you know, 40s would probably be like where I'm like, at that point, that's about like where I'm gonna end. You know, I want to play safe. I don't want to be the guy that's like, I'm 60, still trying to get a world title.
Right.
It's my little past my time. I got a cane. No, I want to get to a point where I have my fun and I don't like push it to where now my body is like really hurting and I'm kind of making more injuries. And then for after this, I'm a bit of a nerd. Most people don't really realize that. So I, you know, plan to stick to doing like computer stuff. I go to school for like cybersecurity.
Okay.
I'm finishing that up pretty soon. So once I'm done with this, my goal is to have some money saved up and like open up a gym. Okay. I always wanted, I was like, you know, looking at my coaches and seeing they had like the whole gym structure going on. And I thought it's like such a fascinating thing, like, you know, raising the next generation of fighters, you know, and, you know, telling their old war stories. Yeah, you know, I had this one fight and, you know, it was just always a cool thing to me, you know. And then like my old gym, the guy, my old coach, my original coach had like 4 or 5 gyms. So I want to be to that point where you just have the whole, you know, thing just growing. He's had several people make it to UFC, you know, so definitely that for me, that's personally where I want to end up going. You know, after I'm done with that, I got like a little stable job and then I have my gym going and just living life.
Exactly. Okay.
Don't sleep on your 40s because I'm currently 42. I'm still going, brother.
Oh, I'm still gonna go on my 40s. I'm not gonna stop
still going. So don't sleep on your 40s now. Tom Brady out here, man. Tom Brady still 40-something years old, still in the game.
Hey, Randy Couture, remember he fought till I think I'm 49.
49, still going. Now, my next question is: you explained like your end goal. Do you plan on being like the Gracies, where you like literally making the how-to videos, how to keep yourself safe, and you're training like people all across the world? What is your final goal when you get to that level where you have your training schools?
I did want to do that because for me personally, a lot of people, when they think of like MMA, they think of like boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. And wrestling. I want to kind of expose them like a little bit more. Like, you know, there's others, Dutch kickboxing. You can also do that. So you don't always have to like limit the same thing. Me personally, I didn't start out with jiu-jitsu. I started out with sambo. So it's like jiu-jitsu and wrestling fused together, but leg locks, and it was made for like war. The thing behind that was if you're in battle and you go to this guy, you rip his ACL, you just took out 3 guys. Why? Because now 2 of his buddies got to drag him out. So that just helped, the cause. So obviously MMA is one-on-one, but when people and when I started out and I did that, they would be like, no, don't do sambo. That's not good.
Right.
But I thought it was a bad thing at first doing it over here. And I find out most people don't know about it. So they don't know the defenses and they get hurt. So I like to, I would definitely like to expose a lot more people to sambo. And then, different styles of fighting. So they know like, hey, you don't always have to stick to one thing. You can do whatever you want. Go out there and try it like Machida. He did karate. People thought karate would never work in the UFC. I mean, come on, it's karate. What happened? Look how far he got just doing karate. And he knows the black belt and jiu-jitsu and judo, but still.
Shout out to Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy is another one over there too. 50-something fights in kickboxing, just using karate.
Yeah, shout out to him.
So that shows you. A lot of people think, it's karate something you started with as a kid. No, you can GSP is another one too. You can definitely go very far, doing different stuff that people aren't used to. You don't always have to go 1-2. People throw the overhand punch and that throws them off, or they throw an uppercut, and it's like I wasn't expecting that. Something unexpected is what you need.
Now, the new game changer, I don't know if you experienced it, that low leg kick.
The low leg kick.
Oh my God, me and my wife have seen so many broken legs. So how do you feel about the new game of the low leg kick? How do you prepare for it? Because I've seen a lot of people break their legs on it. Mm-hmm. My wife, one night we looking at the UFC, we seen like 18 broken legs in one night.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare yourself for that new game of the low leg kick?
The best thing to do, I would say, is one, definitely condition your shins. Don't go and cheat yourself and kick that little soft bag that you make move and makes you feel good.
Right.
Kick that bag full of jeans that does not move. That's one thing to help kick a pole here and there. And then a lot of people you see that have gotten their legs messed up, they didn't realize either the opponent standing with their leg a little bit wider open, so they're hitting directly where they're not supposed to hit. It's like already they're ready to be checked. They don't even have to move their leg. That's one thing they don't know is you got to look at your opponent and see how they're standing. And another thing is too, just the way they're throwing the kicks. If you throw a lazy leg kick and you're hitting with the outside of your leg, it's really easy to get it broken. You want to kick with the strong part on their weak part. You don't want to kick your weak part on their strong part. It's a formula asking to be bad. Like Anderson Silva, great fighter, but a lot of people didn't realize he had some lazy leg kicks, and it showed against Weidman, one of the first ones.
And then Chris Weidman broke his daggone leg.
Doing it, and that's another example. Wow. He did it on Uriah Hall, and it's like it's so simple to avoid it, but and even if you don't get your leg broken, people understand if the first kick doesn't hurt, doesn't mean he's not gonna do it again. They add up after a while. Check that first one, do something to make him not do it again.
Right.
Because you may ignore it. I've did that before. I fought a guy. It was like my first kickboxing match, and he had like 30 kickboxing fights. So, like I said, me being young and dumb, I was like, yeah, I'll fight him. I'm not scared of this guy.
Right.
And I went all 3 rounds, but he kicked my leg because I'm southpaw, so he was kicking my lead leg. And I'm like, leg kicks, they don't work. I've never fought a kickboxer before, so I'm like, that's cool. I take plenty of kicks. By the end of that fight, my leg was dead. It was done. My thigh was not moving, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they mean now. Against a real kicker, if you ignore it, you will pay for it. I went to work the next day on crutches. This thing, I had to wait for the swelling to go down so like the blood can go through.
Oh my God, how long did that take you?
That took like 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, 2 weeks off of that. And it wasn't even like, it was like, oh, I had to go to the hospital. They were just like, you just got to ice it and let that thing go.
Oh, wow. Go down.
But that's just because I ignored it. I was like, they don't hurt. I can take them.
Right.
Like literally Stalbin has won his last 3 fights off a leg.
Oh, yeah, him?
Yeah, he won his last 3 fights, literally just kicking the hell out of people's legs.
Mm-hmm. And people underestimate it because they think, if you punch somebody in the face, knockout. Kick somebody in the leg, they're not going to get knocked out. But
right.
I mean, if you're a heavy enough kicker, you don't need but a few of them. I remember I did soccer and track before, so my legs have always pretty much been strong. But after I figured out how to kick, I made them better. So my first few fights, all I had to do was kick people like 2 or 3 times, and they would just switch stances. And that's when he already knew his leg is already done. Like if I kick that thing again, this guy he's not even going to want to throw punches now because he's so scared about just getting kicked. He doesn't want that leg to be touched at all.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, once that's open, I'm gonna switch, use my other leg and start kicking that same thing to the body now. And it's like you can't really protect against all hits. Like body hits, you can guard it, but the guy is heavy enough kicking, all of a sudden your arm's gonna go dead.
Right.
There's only but so much you can do. So you just gotta be ready for everything.
I got a question for you. So I know football, basketball, they always view tapes of the opponents.
Mhm.
Do you all do that as well? And do you all like do you
Well, if you can.
right? That's what I wanted. I know some of the shorter fights a little different.
Yeah.
But if you got 2 months in advance, do you watch some of the tapes ahead of time so you can kind of see their style?
Yeah, most definitely. I'll for one, I'll try and look at their latest fights versus like their older ones, because you don't want to watch a fight 2 years ago thinking,
and they have improved and changed.
Exactly.
Okay.
That point, you pretty much set yourself up a lot. So I'll try and look at the last fight they had. Look at all the mistakes they made, and if the other guy was smart enough and throwing feints at him, try and see the reaction. Because most people, they're not going to change the reactions. If a guy feints at you and you're going back like this, 9 times out of 10, you're probably still going to do that unless someone made you really get out of that habit, especially at the earlier years.
Okay.
So that's the little things I try and look for. But definitely, I watch the tapes. I have some friends that don't do it. They're just like, I don't care.
Right.
I'm ready for everything, which is cool.
Right.
This is nothing wrong with that. But, depending on who you are, I like to see a little bit of my opponent.
Gotcha.
Whatever I can.
Before I ask my next question, use a word that most people not going to understand. A feint. What is a feint?
Oh, I'm sorry.
People don't understand that. That's when you flinch. So please explain to the person sitting at home, drinking their beer nice and comfortable right now.
So a feint is basically what you use to get a reaction out of somebody. So it's like, instead of me actually throwing a jab, I just kind of jump at them. Like, like when you're kids, you just.
Oh, we did that in high school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know how you do. You play around with your friends.
Like, what you say?
Exactly. We all done feints.
Right.
Exactly. Bucket. Hey, let me use the right term we all were. When you bucket somebody. But this time when you bucket them, you see what they do and you're like, I got you. You drop your right hand. Next time I bucket you, I come over top of my right hand.
Right.
So you just kind of like, I'm sorry, their left hand, your right hand.
Right.
So yeah, you just kind of bucket them, get the reaction, you memorize it, and then later on when they do the same thing, that's usually how most knockouts happen. But a lot of people do it like subconscious. Like most of the time when I catch people, it's like I did it and I like kind of realize it, but we're such in the moment. I'm not really thinking like I know exactly what to do. Israel, he's definitely perfect at it. He'll throw a billion feints in the first round or bucket you a billion times, and he already knows everything you're gonna do. But that second round, he's throwing, and you're like, why is he landing everything? Because he already knows he memorizes everything you're gonna do. Exactly. That's why you see certain people can just throw at will and land everything they want because they can memorize like that. Me personally, it's kind of been like a secondary thing. So I'll do it, but I'm not really as as fine-tuned as him.
Right.
I just have certain things like I just kind of want to open you up for a left kick of death or kick down low or a right hook or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely buck and fading. It will change the game.
Okay.
My official question is, my favorite show is The Ultimate Fighter. Do you see yourself going to that point because you're still young enough to get there? You're right in the age bracket. You can get there, brother. Do you see yourself going to that point? And what would you like to do if you got to that point?
If I did, I definitely know one thing. You got to have some personality because you can be the best fighter in the world. But if you ain't got no personality, they're going to take you off the show. And I learned that by one of my first coaches. He actually got on Ultimate Fighter. He did the tryouts, passed everything, but they told him straight up, they're like, you're just not exciting enough.
Oh, wow.
And threw him off the show. So he ended up having to go back and starting over pretty much. So that's the first thing I know. That's why you see some fighters that kind of like, really annoying.
Right.
They already know. Cobley, he's one of those guys.
But being honest, my favorite fighter, Kamaru Usman, has no personality, but he puts like you talk shit, you're gonna get your face broken.
But he backs it up.
Like my man, he about to fight. He's like, I broke your fucking face. What the hell are we talking about? Your face was here. You're at the end of the fight, your jaw was here. Why are we fighting again, bro? Shit. I'm about to run like, okay, tomorrow. But why are we fighting again? I was like, man, I love him because he doesn't have a big personality, but he backs up his words with his skill set. So do you think it's more about your skill set? Or like you say, you got to have that Kobe personality. He coming out with the Trump hat.
Exactly.
He coming out with the American flag. He talking about how much he loved Donald Trump. And next thing you know, you get your face broken. So,
as he should. As he should.
Like you said, if you're doing that, you got to back it up. Kobe's one of them guys that knew, because when he first did it, and like I'm not really a Kobe fan, so I'm not defending, but when he first got into it, he was a decent fighter, but he was boring. And everybody kick him out. So he knew exactly what he had to do. And I give him props on doing the right thing, in terms of getting people to hate you, because nobody gets more money than the guy that's hated, if you think about it. Jake Paul, everybody's annoyed by him, and we all want to see him get knocked out. But guess what? He's bringing in so much money because we all want to see him get knocked out.
Knocked out.
You know,
yeah.
there's always the good guys, and they can get money
There's
too. You know,
always the
Israel,
villain.
we always love him, but the villain's the guy that
Yeah.
everybody wants to see. Like I remember Tito Ortiz, he was on a 4-fight losing streak one time. At one point, we just wanted to see him get out the UFC. You know, it's like the guy's losing, but it's just that he just talked so much crap, and they kept putting him on the fights, and they were just like, "Yo, we have to like get rid of him." And then it's like you only want to see him at one point just to lose. Nick Diaz is another one. You know, they put him as a bad guy. Same thing too. So I definitely think it's definitely skill.
Nate Diaz lately been getting knocked. I think the last time we saw, he got knocked out. So
Yeah, he's getting
I don't know how he keep on getting up in there, but he keep on sneaking money from my man.
Because he talks a lot.
Dana White keep on signing a check for him, and I'm just like, why? All right, we got a few minutes. My man Trump already cut the lights out. Everything. He ain't playing around.
Last call.
Hold on, this motherfucker, Mickey
At least he didn't blink him.
So, bro, and my last question is: thank you for your career. How do you feel about your overall career? And then give everybody information where they can find you at.
I feel like I definitely enjoyed it. It was fun. I definitely had a lot of adventures. Like, you know, I didn't just fight in Maryland. I fought in different states, won belts in different states. I fought different styles, you know, boxing, kickboxing. I got a Golden Gloves finals in a whole different weight class. You know, it was fun. It was a whole adventure. You know, would I do it again and win every fight? Who wouldn't? But, you know, I'm happy I lost the ones I did. So at least when I lost, it was a lesson learned. You know, when I lost that one before my 185 belt, I was like, I got to work on my wrestling. What happened? I moved up a weight class to 185, and this guy couldn't take me down.
Right.
You know, so I'm like, at least I lost a smaller weight class. So this big guy that's 220 isn't beating my face in 185, you know? So happy I learned that in a smaller weight class and other things. I work my endurance, cardio, et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely enjoyed every bit of it. I do it all over again if I could. You know, same way too. Little changes here and there, but, you know, I would definitely still take away what I could from that. And in terms of finding me, my Instagram is #1, HELIOS, and then Facebook, Helios Armstrong. And on YouTube, if you type Helios Armstrong versus, you'll find me over there too, and all my old and new fights I might have coming up. So I'll definitely keep you guys posted on anything I have coming up. I got a few more classes before I graduate. After that's out the way, getting right back into it. Probably be boxing in, like, I don't know, Atlantic City or something like that. So, or hopefully the MGM, you know, they have everything like that set up again. I'll be throwing it out there, so let y'all know I'm back in it.
Yeah, one of my coworkers, he fights, but he has to sell tickets or something weird.
Yeah.
And it's a shady game, because if you don't sell enough tickets, you won't fight. So it's a shady game in the world of fighting.
Wow.
Yeah, people don't realize that. It's not just, they see like the glamour of it. So you see this guy's fighting, he's put on a post, this and that, but the promoter is calling you like, hey, did you sell them tickets? You sell them tickets? They've really forced you, amateur or whatchamacallit, you gotta sell those tickets. And if you don't do good and fight that first time, like you do good fighting, but you don't sell tickets that well, you might not even come back the second time.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it's not like in the UFC where you see this guy made like $300K or, you know, $1 million for a fight. When you earn your way up there, you're getting like, you know, 2 G's over here. So it was a little bit less than Texas. I remember when I first came back, it was like 500 to make weight, another 500 to win.
Right.
But when you look at it, this guy's like posted all over, like Shogun fights all over Baltimore, but only getting $1,000. Still got to pay coaches. You're not counting the doctor fees and everything.
Right.
So it's like, it looks like he's living a life, but he only made a few $100.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then he still has to get a bunch of fights before he can still start making like $10,000.
Right.
And that's like a come up, you know?
Oh,
so it's definitely, you got to earn your way up there, you know?
Hey, my favorite fighter was living with Rashad Evans for a while, who was his mentor. Usman.
Yeah.
So you never know. You got to live on the struggle before you achieve greatness. All right, we got to get the hell out of here. Salute. Thank you, brother Armstrong, for coming through Impact Radio. Thank you
for having me.
And thank you, brother, because I appreciate what you do. Salute. We up out of here. See you next week on Impact Radio.